All right, guys, this one is going to be quick, but I have some breaking news that I have to cover, and I really want to put a video out on this, but we're going to do this on the quick and dirty because it is currently 5:15, and I have dinner plans. I have to leave my house at 6 p.m. tonight, so we're not going to spend a lot of time making this video. It's just a topic that I think the correct information needs to be put out, and it needs to be straightened out for people because it's a very confusing situation, and I have an opinion on this situation, and I want to give my opinion on it. So the story that we're going to talk about, this news actually broke yesterday, but there's new details that came out today, and that's what I want to really focus my energy on and explaining it to you guys. The headline, this headline is a crappy headline, but it says new witness comes forward causing a delay in the Jason Meade murder trial. This information came out yesterday, and we were told that the family, all of a sudden, the prosecution has come forward with a witness. You know, the prosecution has already rested its case. This incident happened in 2020, December of 2020. So it happened a little over 3 years ago. It's been a very high profile case. And then all of a sudden, the prosecution and the victim, well, not the victim, but Casey Goodson's family has come forward. I guess technically Meade has been charged with a crime, so Casey Goodson is considered the victim in this case. But regardless, his family is coming forward and saying, hey, look, we have a witness now that saw everything. And we want that person to testify. That's what the prosecution is saying. And this caused an absolute shit show. The trial testimony was, I think we were expecting it to conclude yesterday because the prosecution had already rested and the defense was now calling witnesses. I fully anticipated for the defense to finish calling witnesses Thursday evening, and then I expected Friday to be closing arguments, maybe Friday into Monday being closing arguments, and then the jury getting the case on Monday or Tuesday. That's what I expected to happen with this case, but now it's been delayed because the prosecution is trying to call a new witness. This doesn't pass the smell test initially. I'll go through the story real quick, but I just want to kind of talk about what everybody's talking about with this case, because it looks like the family is now manufacturing a witness that's going to come forward and say that they watched the whole thing and that Jason Meade shot Casey Goodson in the back for no reason, that his gun was in the holster, they had sandwiches in his hand and all that kind of stuff. The defense counsel is subpoenaing records, emails, and everything between Casey Goodson's mother and their attorney, trying to see if there's a connection between the three of them and this new witness and all this other kind of stuff. It smells like corruption, and that was my initial reaction. But now that I have a little bit more information, I still think it's dirty. I still think it's shady. I don't think the prosecution should be allowed to have this guy come in and testify, but as I'll demonstrate to you here in a moment, I don't think his testimony is going to be significant, which is another reason why it's stupid for the prosecution to play this card at this point in time. But regardless, let's go through the story real quick. It says a surprise witness has come forward in the murder trial against former sheriff's deputy who fatally shot a fuck god sorry, I'm trying not to cuss, but I hate the way they write these stories. This is bullshit. This is they're trying to drive a narrative when they write stories this way. Who fatally shot a black man in 2020. A former sheriff's deputy who shot Casey Goodson in 2020. That's the appropriate way to write this story. Prosecutors subpoenaed Christopher Korn with an E, on Thursday as a last-minute witness on the trial of Jason Meade, according to documents. Meade's trial was set to resume, or is set to resume, on Tuesday, where he faces 2 counts of murder and 1 count of reckless homicide in the death of 23-year-old Casey Goodson Jr. The subpoena by Special Prosecutor Merkel, whatever these douchebags' names are, lists Korn's address and says that he works for a heating and cooling business in Grove Park, Ohio, which is kind of south of Columbus. In addition, Meade's family attorney filed a subpoena. Okay, so the defense attorneys filed a subpoena for Casey Goodson's mother, Tamala Payne, and her civil attorney, Sean Walton, for all emails between them through the last 6 months regarding Crone. So the defense team is trying to say, look, if you have any emails or any communication between YouTube regarding this guy in the last 6 months. We need to see them. We need to be able to present them in court because this sounds really fishy. And then it talks about how the trial was supposed to resume the other day, but rather than having the trial, they were behind closed doors with the judge. I'm assuming it was the prosecution team and the defense team arguing with the judge about whether or not this witness was going to be allowed to come forward and testify and all the other kind of stuff. It's a mess. It's a shit show. This kind of thing should not be happening in a high-profile murder case, but it is what it is. So that's what's in the news, and that's what everybody is saying. One thing that was brought to my attention today when I posted about it on Facebook, I thought I had this picture pulled up. One second, I'm going to open up this. So this is actually a comment that was on one of the days of testimony from 10 TV's coverage of this incident. Here's the name, Chris Korn with an E. He posted this one day ago, so I think I screenshotted this afternoon. So on February the 8th. But YouTube is a little bit different. It could have been 2 days ago, by the way, YouTube puts time up on things. But here is a guy that has the same name, Chris Korn, and that is the same name that is on the subpoena, Christopher Korn. And here's the comment that he left on a YouTube video a couple days ago. He says, I was in the heating and cooling van sitting in front of Sheila's house. That's one of the witnesses that testified for the defense. I followed Jason Meade down Estate's place. It was definitely me and my heating and cooling van. So this is the guy that they're calling in to testify. Now, I do have video from the court. I'm going to go ahead and mute this because this was taken from the actual court testimony. This is when they were interviewing Art Hughes, who's a Columbus police detective, and he was the lead detective in charge of investigating this homicide. They've got video up on the screen. This blue circle right here is Jason Meade's Ford F-150, and this is him leaving the scene of the previous warrant that they tried to serve, and in a moment he's going to turn around and head back. So you see the comment here. I was in the heating and cooling van sitting in front of this woman's house. I followed Jason Meade down Estate's place. It was definitely me and my heating and cooling van. So let's see what he's talking about. Here's Jason Meade driving down the road. And the other thing is, this is moments before Casey Goodson allegedly pointed a firearm through his windshield at Jason Meade as he was driving. So you saw Jason Meade just go by, and then right back here is a heating and cooling van. This right here, this is the guy that is claiming to be right here. The guy that made this comment is saying that he is this guy right here, and he was behind Jason Meade as he drove down the road. I'm going to rewind that a little bit. So here's Jason Meade driving away from the house prior to interacting with Casey Goodson. It's a little bit of pause because this is literally the court footage, and there you go. So he starts to drive, and then a few seconds behind him is this guy in a heating and cooling van, and he's saying, look, that was me. And then here's Rosser, the other U.S. Marshal Task Force guy. So that guy is the guy in this van right here saying, hey, that was me. Well, since he has come forward and said that was him, the prosecution team is calling him in to testify. Now, there is another angle, other than you saw the amount of time it took for, let's do that. So here is the heating and cooling van, and we're going to play that. He drives off screen. There's Rosser driving by. Then in a couple moments, Casey Goodson's going to drive by as well. You can see it's still playing because there's still movement and stuff in the background. It's not paused. Takes a moment. Right there. So that's Casey Goodson driving his vehicle. So Jason Meade drove down the road. Then there's a gap in time. Then this heating and cooling van drives down the road. There's a gap in time. And then Casey Goodson goes past. They do show another angle here, and I'll show that to you. Maybe. I don't know if I clipped it all. Yep. So right here, this is Jason Meade's F-150. And then this red circle that they're going to bring into the screen, this is actually the news footage that I'm using. That is Casey Goodson's car. And I don't know. So they're going to pass each other right here. And this is where it's alleged that Casey Goodson was handling a firearm and pointed it at Deputy Meade. This guy was in the heating and cooling van behind Deputy Meade. And this is the guy that they're calling in to testify. Now, at the end of the day, I don't think this is a big deal. I don't think that this is something that people need to be freaking out about. And I don't believe that this guy, this Christopher guy, is going to have any testimony that is super duper relevant to the case. I don't think it's anything that's going to prove anything. Here's what I expect to happen. I expect the prosecution to put him up on the stand and ask him if he was the one driving that heating and cooling van that day. And he's going to say, yes, I was. And then they're going to say, you know, were you behind Jason Meade? He's going to say, yes, I was. Were you right there X amount of feet away from Casey Goodson's car when he drove by? He's going to say, yes, he was. He goes, did you see Casey Goodson pointing a gun at Deputy Jason Meade? And this guy's going to say, no, I didn't see him pointing a gun at anybody. And the prosecutor is going to ask him some more questions. And then they're going to try to use that to say, well, if he didn't see this guy, Casey Goodson, pointing a gun, then there's no way that it happened because Jason Meade has to be lying. That's going to be what they're saying. What they're doing is they're trying to plant doubt in the jury's mind that Deputy Jason Meade saw what he saw. Then the defense is going to come up and they're going to ask him some questions. And if I was on the defense team, I would ask him a bunch of other questions about what was going on there. Like, hey, did you see this? Or did you see the other car drive by? Or blah, blah, blah. The mere fact that this guy didn't also observe a firearm in Casey Goodson's hand is not super relevant to the case as far as I'm concerned, because the average citizen is not very aware of what's going on when they're out in public. You know, this guy is working a heating and cooling business. He was probably on his phone, you know, trying to decide where he's going to go next, looking at his GPS. There's a lot of different things that he's looking at. I can also tell you from experience that police officers are much more observant than your average citizen is. And I have a very quick story that I can tell you about when I had a ride along one night. I think it was actually a guy who's now a cop, and he's an Army veteran. And he was a security guard at a hospital at the time. He was going on a ride along with me to see if he wanted to come and work for my organization. We're driving around town. I'm trying to show him, you know, all the fun and exciting things that there are to see on third shift. And as I drove down the street, I saw a dude standing at a street corner, slumped over. It looked like he was about to pass out and fall into the road. And he was on that side of my car, the same side of my car that my ride along was sitting in. I was driving, I'm in the left side of the road, and I saw this guy out of the corner of my eye. I said, and as we drove by, I said, oh, we're going to go back and talk to that guy. I turned right on the next side street so we could flip around and come back. And my ride along goes, what guy? I go, that guy that was that was standing on the side of the road like a zombie that almost passed out and fell in front of the cruiser. And he's like, I had no idea. He's like, there wasn't anybody there. And then we pulled around the corner and I put my spotlight on him. I was like, yeah, that guy right there. And you see this guy like all zoned out, all faded out. And my ride along, my buddy, he was blown away. He's like, how did I not see that? And I go, I don't know. How did you not see that? It was right outside your freaking window. There's a lot of things that we see as police officers that your everyday average Joe citizen doesn't see, because they're not at that same level of alertness that we are, because, you know, that's literally our job. We are supposed to drive around and observe everything around us. We've become conditioned to conditioned to the fact, or conditioned into a style of going about our day, that we just notice things. We can't help it. Once you've been doing this job long enough, you just can't help but notice things that other people don't notice. There might be a lot of regular Joe civilians out there that are similar to this, but I think it's definitely something that's more prevalent amongst police officers. So the fact that Jason Meade saw Casey Goodson fumbling with a firearm and pointing it at him, and that somebody behind Jason Meade didn't see that, that does not prove the prosecution's case. This is a stunt that I don't believe that they should be pulling. I don't think the judge should allow this, but at the same time, this is also something that the jury is going to see. The jury are regular citizens as well. They're aware of exactly what's been happening in that courtroom. They're seeing the drama that's been playing out in this courtroom. They're seeing a desperate prosecution team that is obviously losing their case. I don't think this is going to have a tremendous effect on the trial other than by making it take longer. So there we have it. For all the people that were wondering what was going on, I'll move this out of the way. Right here, we have this guy, Chris, saying I was the guy in this van, and Casey Goodson drove right by him. And that's what all the drama is about. So that's it for me today, Friday. It's 5:30. I'm going to edit this video real fast, hop in the shower, go to dinner with my wife, try to have a nice weekend. You guys try to do the same. I'll talk to you later.